Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the atmosphere character of our world around us, and this time we will refer to recent events. You remember for sure that in one of my recent videos I mentioned about complete detachment of current pseudo-cultural and political elites of our modern Western European countries. I would even call them anti-cultural elites because they follow neo-Marxism, that is, from its definition, doctrine coming from the Frankfurt Marxist school, which is by default anti-cultural. And these people are giving prizes to the movies of such pseudo film directors, Mrs. Holland, that is portraying the defenders of the external borders of the European Union against the influx of artificially caused influx of the invaders, so young men who are brought there by Russia and Belarus and try to cross the European Union border to settle down and live on the expenses of the Western European societies. And these are not poor people, these are not refugees, these are people who are wealthy enough in our own countries to pay the tickets and transportation fees to Russians and Belarusians, and also Chinese, as I will explain you later in the course of this video, to be transported at the border of the European Union and try to cross it. And these are mainly young men who are escaping the the conscriptions to the army, and they are escaping their own family duties. So this is not the element every country would like to have within its own borders if the elites of this country are normal, and Western European elites are not normal. One can ask the question, what's the reason of this recent massive immigration pressure on the borders of the European Union? And like recently we have the influx through the Mediterranean Sea to the Lampedusa and Sicily of the islands of Italy and so on. The answer is really simple. We know that for the last decades, especially China but also Russia, they explore their possibilities in Africa. They seek not only for the natural resources, but they are also seeking for the political influence. And now they realize that they cannot press US much more, but they can press other allies of the United States who are really rotten mentally by the leftist ideologies, and they are not ready to protect their borders. So we see that Russians and Chinese are organizing groups that are smuggling these people to the European borders. They are helping them to get there. It's obvious. And recent coup in Niger tells us that they are really trying to reshape the geopolitical architecture of the world, and the successful coup in Niger really made problems to France because the supply of uranium was largely perturbed. But we know that leftist elite of France will forgive Russians everything because love will forgive everything, and they are known from their incredibly huge love for Russia and everything what's Russian. And why is that? We know that in the early 60s, the director of KGB, Mr. Shelepin, asked his own people to create ideologies that will mm, that will guarantee ideological subversion of the West. And one of these ideologies was, of course, liberation theology, that it's now so mixture of Catholic theology and Marxism, that it's now making the troubles in South and Latin America in general. And for Western Europe, we see that cultural Marxism, like this gender and other stuff, was the seed of destruction, was planted in the mid of 60s, and now it's germinating very rapidly. It was planted among Western European elites in the mid 60s, and now this all critical theories, critical culture theory, critical race theory, and other shit, it's all originated from this neo-Marxist Frankfurt School, And this seed was planted by Soviet and Chinese agents who were financed by them, were getting positions at the university, in cultural institutions, and later, after planting the seed of the ideological distraction, that thing propagates on its own because these initial people installed them by Russians and Chinese services, mainly Russians because these are 60s, 70s. Later, they educated their own people, and the distraction of the culture and brains of Western people propagates. And now we see that they are completely vulnerable to oppose this invasion of these migrants, and that is caused by Russian and Chinese to press the Western allies of the United States and force them to act in favor of Russia and China. From the geopolitical point of view, it's a smart move from the side of Eastern empires, so Russia and China, because they are trying to fix the things with not with their own hands. And we see that nothing actually changed in Africa for the last 20-30 years, so we should ask ourselves the questions: why now we experience this huge wave of immigration to Europe? I will tell you why. Because there is an organized structure allowing these people to emigrate, and this organization of this transportation came from Russia and China, which really are interested in pressing the Western countries to change their politics towards them. And this is one of the tools they can press them. Because now they are ideologically brainwashed, so they are not able to defend themselves. To stop these waves, simply one would need to use force. But due to the ideological pressure and ideological stupidity, Western elites are not able to do so. And this is another beautiful example how normal people, Europeans and people who live in Europe, are now, especially the ones who live at the frontiers of the European Union, are flooded by the hordes of aggressive young men who want to live on their own costs, and they are paying the price for the ideological leftist idiocy that was born in the brains of completely disconnected leftist intellectuals whose pride doesn't know the limits. And what we should do, we should defend ourselves, defend our borders, and try to influence. I said it already in many other of my videos, how our governments to change the politics and not to succumb to ideological subversion towards neo-Marxism that is originated from Moscow and now also supported by Beijing to defend their own interest. All the best, have a nice day, bye.